Hello and good morning. Joe Justice here, coming to you live on February 15th. We are halfway through February. It is 2023, and I've got a very special guest on with us here today. His name is Graham Grigg, and he's with a company called Galaxkey, and that's actually going to be an important thing about what we're going to be talking about today. A lot of people in the U.S. have not heard of the company Galaxkey and are not familiar with the company Galaxkey, and that is one of the things that we're wanting to change. And one of our first steps in changing that is we're going to be having a breakfast here on the 24th of February in Frederick, Maryland. I've got the link as a comment, and you can click on that if you're in Frederick or know somebody that is in the Frederick area. You can go ahead and attend that for free, learn all about Galaxkey. But to get us started and to kind of give us an idea of what that company is and what they do, I'm going to bring on Graham. I'm sorry. I'm going to bring on Graham. Graham, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do with Galaxkey.
Hey Joe, so I am a product specialist with Galaxkey. We've been in the US for about a year, but we've been on the market since 2015. Our specialty is protecting data through a business platform. I'll get into more of that as we go. But I've always been a privacy enthusiast of my own data. I've always been trying to keep that off the internet. And a good way to know is when you get those really creepy ads. You were just talking about such and such. And next thing you know, on YouTube or wherever else, you're getting an advertisement for a couch or something. So, I'm trying to limit everything out there. And the most important thing about limiting your data as far as getting on the internet is, making sure other people that might do something bad with it don't get it as well.
Now, I know one thing that a lot of people do not realize and are completely unaware of. Most people think that when you send an email to someone, that person that you're sending it to is the only person that can see that email. That's not exactly true, is it?
No, it's not. And we have a lot of different technologies to help fight that. But hackers are always looking for that one way to get in, and they're going to find it eventually.
So when we're talking about email in general, the only way to really protect that is through some kind of an encryption system, right?
Indeed. And a lot of people have encryption, like you might have Microsoft encryption, but they've got the keys to your encryption. So technically they can see it. And if somebody hacks Microsoft, they can get to you. With Galaxy, we're changing that. We're making it with our unique encryption system. Only you and the person that you send your message to can get your data because you're generating keys that nobody else has.
Let's step back for just a second. When you talk about keys and when we're talking about encryption, what does that mean to have an encryption key?
So to have an encryption key, we have two kinds. We have the public key and the private key. The private key is the one that I'm going to use to read stuff, but the public one can be used to encrypt. Now, the public one, I can go and when I'm trying to generate keys for a user, I can grab their public key so that I can configure it for them. But yeah, the private key is the one that's really important. And if somebody that you don't want to get their hands on it does, then they can do a lot of bad things with your information.
And by key, what we're talking about is basically like a string of data, like a code, right?
Exactly. These, yeah.
So when we're talking about encryption, what we're doing is we're taking the data and we're scrambling it all up using this public key. And then the private key is the only one that can then unlock that data, which will descramble it. Do I have that right?
Exactly. Yeah. So if you get a file that's encrypted and you don't have that key to unlock it, to put it back together, it's just going to look like a bunch of random characters. It's going to look like garbage.
And that's really kind of what we're talking about when we're talking about. So, for example, if you go into a coffee shop and they've got public Wi Fi, and let's say you're just sending text messages across public Wi Fi or you're sending email across public Wi Fi, that data that you're sending is not just going, it's not like a straight line. Like, I think a lot of people think of like email and communication like that as like, you remember when you were a kid, you would have the string with the two cans and one can would go to one person and then you would hold the other one. And I think that's what people think of. They think, well, it's only going to that one person, but that's not really how the internet works, right?
No, not at all. And pretty much everybody's talking to that box, that modem in your cafe. That's one of the least secure places to use your internet stuff. In fact, if you were to hotspot off of your phone, Be far better. But what people will do is they can use a common piece of software to see what traffic is going over the network, and then they can just grab those data packets and they can read them and everything. And that's one of many reasons we need to secure our data.
And so that kind of gets us back to Galaxkey and what we're talking about. Tell me a little bit about what brought about this breakfast that we're having on the 24th. That's next Friday, so it's a little bit more than a week away. It's going to be in Frederick, Maryland, and it's going to be at a really nice restaurant called Dutch's. Have you been to Dutch's Daughter before?
I've been to Dutch's Daughter many times, and I love it there. It's a great place.
Yeah, it's a great restaurant. We had Mike Cleveland on yesterday, and he was talking about it. He says it's the best steak. Now, unfortunately, we're not having a steak dinner there. We're going to have a breakfast there, so that everybody has time to come in, learn a little bit about Galaxkey, and then be able to get back to work because we don't want to interrupt anybody's day as much as we can. But it's going to be super valuable, and for the amount of time that you're going to be there, it's going to be value packed because we're going to learn about this. I shouldn't say, it's not really a new technology. I know Galaxkey is a platform and it's a new platform to the United States, but it's a European platform. And honestly, let's just be realistic here. The Europeans are way ahead of the Americans when it comes to cybersecurity. Is that right? At
Yes,
least in data protection.
absolutely. The Europeans have something called general data privacy rules, which means that you have the right to be forgotten, among other things, and it's just much better for data security. In America, when we upload something to the internet, it's kind of there forever. I could find something from like 10 years ago just sitting around on a server somewhere. And so it's a little bit of the Wild West still in America, and that's why we need to beef things up. But
Well,
we can definitely go into more of this, during the event.
yeah, we'll definitely touch on a lot of that stuff and how to protect your personal data and privacy and everything. But I know in the news lately, it's really popular is this thing called Chat GPT, and most people don't realize that it's trained on the internet. Everything that you put up on the internet is still out there somewhere. Most people think that they hit delete on their tweet or whatever and it's gone, but that's not exactly the case, right?
Definitely not. And Twitter can review anything that's ever been posted on their server. So just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's gone. And ChatGPT, one of the things we need to be worried about is it's designed to give you really comprehensive answers and very convincing sounding stuff. However, it's just pulling from what's out there. So it might be wrong and it might make you think the wrong thing is right.
And another important thing to keep in mind, Twitter, and I'm only talking about Twitter. This happens on YouTube, this happens on Facebook, but we know a lot of stuff that's happening with Twitter because of the Elon Musk purchase, and he's released a lot of data. But all of those things that you think of as private messages, DMs, that you think, well, nobody sees but me, those engineers and the people of that company, they all have access to all of that data. And it looks like from the information that's come out that, who can actually access it is actually pretty arbitrary, basically anybody in there. So the idea that you're sending private information to people is just a complete misnomer on a platform like that, right?
Absolutely. So many platforms like social mediums like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even some encrypted messaging apps. You'll see in the fine print that they can read anything, and then commercial interests can just buy that data off of them if they so choose.
And Google's been doing that for years. Up front, they admit it. They don't hide it when it comes to Gmail. That's how you get targeted ads in your Gmail, right?
100%.
But that's where Galaxkey is different, and that kind of brings us full circle. Excuse me. That brings us full circle to what you were talking about earlier, which is keeping your own keys. How does that make it different? What does keeping your own keys? How is that any different than Gmail?
So because we have our own keys because you have your own keys, you made that key. Nobody else has it. Google doesn't have it. Microsoft, no, even Galaxy, we don't have your key. And so if maybe the FBI came to me tomorrow and said, hey, we need so and so's information, give us their data dump. Well, because we have the server, okay, we're forced to give over that data. But when they come back to me and say, hey, this is a bunch of scrambled characters and such, I need the key. Well, sorry, man, I don't have it. I can't help you there.
Right, and that's the big difference. The big difference is even if you guys got hacked, or something like that happened, something disastrous like that, they still would just end up with encrypted data, right?
Yeah, unlike almost any other company out there. If
And
if
and and
Galaxy,
And to the same extent, if somebody else, let's say, a different company gets their keys stolen, that doesn't affect your keys in any way, right?
No, not at all.
Awesome. Well, and I know we're going to go into a lot more detail about this, Graham, on next Friday. So I definitely want to encourage people to go ahead, sign up now. The seats are limited. We've only got about 30, 32, 33 seats left. So you definitely want to sign up. And we're going to love to have you. It's going to be at 8:30 in the morning, and we're going to be there for about an hour and a half. We'll have a little bit of breakfast, and then Graham and his team at Galaxkey are going to present. We're going to be talking some more about this as the week goes on. Graham, I want to thank you so much for being on with us today. We are, believe it or not, already out of time, and I'm going to have to hit it for the day. Thank you a lot, and I hope that you all have a wonderful week, and I will speak to you again sometime very soon. Bye for now.